The folder slipped from my hands, scattering business plans across my parents' marble foyer. My father's words echoed off the vaulted ceiling, each syllable landing like a physical blow. "You're no longer our daughter." I watched the papers settle. 3 years of market research, financial projections, AI development frameworks, fanning across the floor like broken promises. My mother stood behind him, arms crossed, her silence somehow louder than his shouting. Outside, movers were already loading my belongings into a truck they'd hired without telling me. "Dad, if you'd just look at what I've built." I reached for the prototype specs, but he stepped on them. "Built?" His laugh was bitter. "You've built nothing but excuses. The import business is your legacy, Olivia. Everything we've sacrificed, every opportunity we've given you, and you throw it away for some computer fantasy." My throat tightened. Last month, I'd shown him the venture capital term sheet. $2 million in initial funding for my AI algorithm. He'd barely glanced at it before handing it back. "Real business," he'd said, "not tech bubble nonsense." "The funding is real," I said, hating how my voice shook. "The technology works. I have 3 patents pending." "Enough." My mother finally spoke, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "We're done indulging this. Take over the business or get out. Those are your options." I looked at them both. These people who'd mapped my entire life before I was old enough to hold a pencil. The right schools, the right major, the right career path, all leading to this moment where I was supposed to sacrifice everything I'd worked for to save a business that had been dying for years. "I can't take over something that's already failing," I said quietly. "The import market has shifted. Your suppliers are outdated. I've tried to show you the numbers." "Don't you dare lecture us about our business." My father's face flushed red. "We know what we're doing. What do you know? You're 28 years old with your head in the clouds and no practical experience." "My name is Olivia. I'm 28, and I'm about to become invisible to my own family. This is the story of how I made them see me again." The memory of that day still burned 7 years later as I sat in my Rolls-Royce, staring at the same house. The pristine Victorian mansion I remembered looked exhausted now. Paint peeling, gutters sagging, the manicured lawn reduced to patchy weeds. My mother's desperate phone call yesterday had shattered 7 years of silence. I'd kept the same number all these years. Part of me hoping they'd reach out. Part of me wanting them to see I hadn't disappeared just because they'd thrown me away. "Please, Olivia," she'd sobbed. "The bank is foreclosing. We need $400,000. We have nowhere else to turn." No apology for that day. No acknowledgement of what they'd said, what they'd done. Just need. I stepped out of the car, my Louboutins clicking against cracked concrete. The door flew open before I reached it. "Olivia!" My mother's eyes widened, taking in the tailored Chanel suit, the jewelry that cost more than their mortgage. The last time she'd seen me, I was wearing jeans and a hoodie, cramming my life into garbage bags while they watched. "Hello, Mom." I kept my voice neutral. She stepped aside, hands fluttering nervously. "Your father's in the living room. We weren't expecting you so early." The house interior matched the exterior. Worn Persian rugs, dusty antique furniture. Everything looked smaller, sadder. My father sat in his leather armchair, and I watched his eyes narrow as he assessed my appearance. "You look expensive." His tone mixed confusion with suspicion. "Things change." I sat across from him. "But you know that, don't you? Things have changed for you, too." My mother perched on the sofa edge. "We're so grateful you came. The bank is foreclosing next month." $400,000, I finished. "You mentioned that. What I want to know is how you got here." My father's face darkened. The business had setbacks. The market changed. We had to take loans to keep afloat. I nodded slowly. "The import business I refused to take over. The one you said I was foolish to walk away from." "Olivia, please." My mother's voice carried that familiar managing tone. "We know we said hurtful things, but we're your parents. We need help." I studied them both. My proud father unable to meet my eyes, my mother still trying to smooth everything over as if the past 7 years could be erased with please and thank you. "Show me everything," I said. "The loans, the business records, all of it. If I'm going to help, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. My father started to protest, but Mom quickly gathered documents from a drawer. As I reviewed them, the full picture emerged. The business hadn't just failed, it had been hemorrhaging money for years, probably even before they'd tried to force me into it. Multiple mortgages on the house, high-interest loans, vendor debts. "You're not just in trouble with the house," I said, looking up. "The business is completely underwater. You need a lot more than $400,000 to fix this." "We just need to save the house," Mom said quickly. "The business, we can figure that out later." I set the papers down. "Why did you really call me? After 7 years of complete silence, why now?" My father shifted uncomfortably. "We heard about you from Mrs. Park. She saw an article about neurodynamics in Forbes with your photo. She mentioned it to your mother at the grocery store. We looked you up online after that. Saw what you'd built. We thought maybe you'd be willing to help." "You thought I might have money to bail you out," I finished. "But you didn't bother to actually reach out until you needed something, did you?" "We were angry," Mom admitted softly. "When you left, when you rejected everything we'd planned, it felt like betrayal. We were too proud to reach out." I stood, walking to the window. The garden where I'd spent countless childhood hours was overgrown, my mother's prize roses choked by weeds. "Do you know what neurodynamics is?" I asked without turning. "Some sort of computer company?" my father ventured. I couldn't help laughing. "Some sort of computer company. Yes, that's one way to put it." I turned to face them. Neurodynamics is one of the fastest growing AI companies in the world. Our technology is revolutionizing healthcare, climate science, autonomous systems, and I founded it. The silence felt heavy enough to crush bones. "That's impossible," my father finally stammered. "You never had that kind of business experience." "I had something better. Vision." I moved back to my chair. "I saw where technology was going while you were clinging to an outdated business model. The daughter you called a disappointment built something worth $4 billion. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "Billion," I repeated, "with a B, which is why your $400,000 request is actually quite modest. The question is, what are you really asking for? Money or something else?" They looked at each other, decades of shared history passing between them. My father's shoulders slumped, and for the first time in my life, I saw tears in his eyes. "We were wrong," he said, voice rough, "about everything. The business, your choices, you. We were so convinced we knew what was best that we couldn't see what you were capable of." I felt my own eyes sting but kept my voice steady. "And now that you know I have money, that I'm successful by any measure, is that why you want to reconnect?" "No," Mom cried. "Olivia, please. The money, yes, we need help. But seeing you today, realizing what you've achieved, we're proud of you. We should have been proud all along." I let those words settle. Pride. After 7 years of silence, after throwing me out, after telling me I was throwing away my life, now they were proud. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, voice calm but firm. "I'm going to help you, but not just with money. This is about rebuilding everything, including our relationship, and it happens on my terms." My father started to speak, but I raised my hand. "Let me finish. First, my team will do a complete financial audit, everything. No secrets, no hidden debts. I need to know exactly what we're dealing with." "Your team?" Mom asked softly. "Yes, Mom. I have a team of financial advisors who manage my assets. They'll handle this professionally." I pulled out my phone, texted my CFO, Sarah. She replied within seconds, confirming she'd start immediately. "Second," I continued, "we're going to talk, really talk, about everything that happened, everything that was said. No more sweeping things under the rug." My parents exchanged nervous glances. The Martinez family, as my father proudly used to call us, had never been good at emotional honesty. "And third," I stood, "you're coming to see what I've built. Tomorrow, I'm taking you to neurodynamics. It's time you understood exactly what your daughter has achieved." The next morning, I picked them up in the Rolls-Royce. Mom had dressed in one of her old designer suits that now hung loose on her frame. Dad looked uncomfortable in a tie that had seen better days. As we drove toward the gleaming Tech District towers, Mom kept glancing at me. "What is it?" I finally asked. "You seem so different, confident, in control." I smiled slightly. "I always was, Mom. You just never saw it because it didn't fit your image of who I should be." We pulled into the private garage beneath Neurodynamics, 40 stories of glass and steel housing over 3,000 employees. My parents' eyes widened at the fingerprint scanner in the private elevator. "Security is tight," I explained. "What we develop here is worth billions." The elevator opened directly into my executive suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic city view. Multiple screens displayed real-time data from our global operations. "This is impressive," my father said, turning slowly. Sarah was waiting, tablet in hand. "Ms. Martinez, I have the preliminary audit results." I nodded. "What's the damage?" She glanced at my parents. "Total outstanding debt is approximately $2.3 million. House mortgages, business loans, various credit lines, most high interest and overdue." I heard Mom's sharp intake of breath. "Options?" I asked. "We can clear it all immediately, or structure a payment plan if you prefer they handle it gradually." My father's face had gone gray. $2.3 million. Olivia, we had no idea it had gotten so bad." "You didn't want to know," I corrected, "just like you didn't want to know what I was doing with my life." I turned to Sarah. "Set up a payment plan. I'll cover it all, but structure it properly. And I want the business officially closed. No more throwing good money after bad." After Sarah left, I led them into my private conference room. The walls were covered with awards, press coverage, articles about neurodynamics innovations and impact. "This is what you walked away from," Mom said, reading a headline. "No," I corrected. "This is what I walked toward. You saw it as walking away because you couldn't imagine anything beyond what you'd planned for me." I sat at the conference table, gesturing for them to join. "Do you know why I succeeded? Because when you cut me off, when you took away everything I was supposed to depend on, you accidentally gave me the greatest gift: freedom. Freedom to fail, to try, to build something without the weight of your expectations." My father's hands trembled as he clasped them on the table. "We thought we were doing what was best, protecting you. The family business was supposed to be your security." "But it was never what I wanted," I said softly. "And you never asked. You just assumed your dreams should be my dreams." "And look what your dreams built," Mom said, gesturing at the room. "While we were clinging to the past, you were creating the future." We spent hours talking, really talking, for the first time in years. They told me about their struggles as the business declined, their fear of losing everything, their regret over pushing me away. I told them about the early neurodynamics days, the risks I took, the nights I worked until dawn believing in my vision. "There's something else you should know," I said finally. "I'm not just successful. The company is worth $4 billion, but my personal net worth is over $470 million. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad seemed to age 10 years, the full weight of their rejection finally hitting him. "All this time," he whispered, "while we were drowning in debt, too proud to admit our mistakes, too proud to reach out." "To your daughter," I finished. "Yes." I pulled out a folder. "This is my proposal. I'll clear all your debts through a structured payment plan. The house will be put in a trust. You can live there for the rest of your lives, but it will eventually become a foundation to help young entrepreneurs. The family business will be closed properly, with all employees receiving generous severance packages." They nodded, understanding this wasn't negotiable. "But this isn't just about money," I continued. "I want us to try being a real family, not the one you tried to force me into, but something new, something honest. That means therapy, both individual and family sessions, regular dinners, real conversations, genuine efforts to understand each other." "You don't owe us any of this," Mom said quietly, "after how we treated you." "No, I don't," I agreed, "but I'm not doing it out of obligation. I'm doing it because despite everything, you're my parents. And maybe it's time we all learned how to be a family without expectations or conditions." Dad reached across the table and took my hand, the first time he'd touched me in 7 years. "Thank you," he said, voice rough with emotion. "Not for the money, for giving us a chance to make things right. Over the next 6 months, we began the slow process of rebuilding. Therapy sessions were difficult. Years of resentment don't disappear overnight. But gradually, we started understanding each other. My parents moved into their renovated house, now maintained by the trust. Mom started volunteering at a youth center, mentoring girls interested in technology. Dad, free from the failing business, discovered a passion for teaching business classes at the community college. One evening, about 6 months after that first reunion, we sat in their garden. I'd had it restored to its former glory, Mom's beloved roses blooming again. "Do you remember," Mom said, sipping tea, "how you used to sit out here with your laptop, working on what you called your projects? We thought you were just playing games, avoiding real work." I smiled. Those projects were the early versions of the AI algorithms that became neurodynamics core technology. "We were so blind," Dad added, "so caught up in our own vision of success that we couldn't see you were already successful, just in a way we didn't understand." "The past is the past," I said, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. "What matters is we're here now, learning to see each other clearly." My phone buzzed, a message from my team about a breakthrough in our latest project. Looking at it, then at my parents, I felt something complete inside me. I'd succeeded not just in business, but in something far more challenging: forgiving, growing, and building a new relationship with my family. "I have exciting news," I said, putting my phone away. "Neurodynamics is launching a foundation to support young entrepreneurs from underprivileged backgrounds. We're calling it the Martinez Innovation Fund." My parents' eyes widened. "You're using our name?" Dad asked. "Yes," I replied, "because despite everything, you taught me something valuable, the importance of legacy, just not in the way you planned." Mom wiped away tears as Dad squeezed her hand. We sat there in the garden, watching day fade into night. 3 people who'd lost their way, finding a new path forward together. Sometimes the greatest success isn't measured in dollars or achievements, but in the ability to transform pain into purpose, resentment into reconciliation, and broken relationships into something stronger than before. As I drove home that night, I thought about the long journey that brought us here. From the daughter they rejected to the businesswoman who could save them, from a family broken by pride to one slowly healing through honesty and effort. The Martinez Innovation Fund launched 3 months later, and seeing my parents at the opening gala, proud of what we'd built together, felt like closing a circle that had been broken for far too long. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Thank you for not giving up on us. We love you." I smiled, thinking how far we'd all come. Sometimes the hardest part of success isn't achieving it. It's learning how to share it with the people who once doubted you could succeed at all. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, 0 cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.